Alright, hey guys, so we're back here for our fourth video in our church lighting series. Today I'm going to be diving a little bit more in depth into Grand MA2. Last time we talked about how you could build a really simple splash screen, which I still have right here. So you can see right here, it's really simple. Any volunteer can walk in, they can change the color of the stage wash or the uplight, they can turn on front light, change the color of that, and change the house intensity. All of that stuff. But today we're going to dive a little bit more into the programming side and what you can do with a lot of that. So to quick recap what we're going to go over today, we're going to talk about sequences, specifically the organization of them, some of the timing stuff that you can do in them, and we're also going to talk a little bit about effects. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and here we go. Alright guys, so the first thing that we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and we're going to set this up so that we have easy access to our effects. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to clear out all of this stuff here that we don't need right now. And we'll put in effects up here. And now what I'm actually going to do as well is I'm going to put in our stage view. So I'm going to put this layout view back in. But I'm going to make it so that it's always going to be our stage view. I'm going to turn on my shortcuts so I can easily just use my key commands, and I'm going to say store, put it right here, and we're going to call this effects. Alright, so now if I jump off and I come here, I always have my effects. Now I don't have anything in here. You can easily import some of the basic effects. I'll show you how to do that quick. You come in here to setup, go to import export, import effects. Now once you're in here, you're going to go and under predefined, you're going to be able to pull in a lot of the basic MA effects. I have a couple others that I've used in other shows, but basically we're just going to grab our dimmer sign, our dimmer chase, and if you use shift you can select multiple at once. And let's grab our, let me use control, that way we don't grab everything in between as well. So we're going to grab these three. We're going to say start at effect 1 and we'll use import. So now when I close out of here, I bring this back up, I now see that I have 3 effects right here. So to give you a bit of a basic here, let me just grab my uplights here, and if I run a dimmer sign, that's going to be a simple smooth up and down effect. If I do dimmer chase, it's going to be a snap between, and then rainbow obviously is going to be adjusting the color as well. And what I'm going to say here is to stomp dimmer. And to do that, we're going to import a couple of macros as well. So what I'm going to do is go to setup, import macros. We're going to go here to predefined, and we're going to find stomp. So these are all in alphabetical order, makes it really easy to find them. So as we look here, we're looking for stomp. Stomp, there we go. So we're going to say stomp color, stomp dimmer, and we're going to say import. So go ahead and close that, jump back over here. Now if you remember, we have all these other things in here, so we're going to scroll down. Alright, so there's our stomp color, stomp dimmer. If I say stomp dimmer, now you can see it stopped that, and you can see the color effect running. Say stomp color, it's going to stop that. Essentially stomp just means to stop the effects. So those are our base effects, really easy to import, now really easy to apply to anything. One thing you might want to do is you might want to have them in a different order. So to do that, what you're going to do is you're going to select your fixtures. So let me clear everything out here to start with. Select your fixtures, and now we're going to go under Tools. We're going to say Shuffle Selection Order. Go ahead and close that. Bring this back up, and now if I say dimmer sign, you can see it's not in a straight line across. Then give it a bit of a more unique, distinct look. Now the final thing that I want to show you guys is you can take them and apply an effect, and if you say store, you're now going to store a new effect. If you right click on there, you can go in to label it, and so we're going to call that uplight sign. And I can shuffle selection order in here as well. So if I click that, now if I clear everything out, now I can say there and run it, and you can see it's not in a straight line. The other thing I can do is now you see it has a little red S. That means it's a selective effect. The really nice thing about selective effects is that means I don't actually have to select my lights, everything to run it. I can just double click on this effect and it's automatically going to start running. The other nice thing about it is if I clear out here, if I go over here to my executors and I click on here, I can actually put an effect right onto a fader. So we're going to grab our uplight sign here, and we're going to click here. This means that anything here can be a sign by clicking on it, and I'm going to say learn. All right, and then we're going to say half speed and double speed. This is the typical setup that I'll have on my effects, unless I have a speed master, which we'll talk about in a future video. But this is just a really simple way. Now if I close out, you can see I have an effect on here. So we'll turn that down. Now if I say learn, I click it really fast, you can see the BPM is changing here. If I click it really slow, it's going to slow it way down. So we're going to go just like that. Now as I bring it up, it's going to start running the effect, and if I jump back over here, you can see it's running. Now, without doing anything else, if I go back here, I say HS, which is half speed, it's going to slow it to half that speed. I get out of here, you can see it's running slower. If I say half speed again, now you can see it's running half that speed again. It's a really easy way to then be able to do some cool effects. So the last thing that I want to do here is I'm going to go ahead and turn this off, and actually I'm going to go ahead and delete this one. The last thing I'm going to show you is with effects is how you can build your own effects. So I'm going to select these guys, and I'm going to say store right here. Now I can come in here. You can see it's grayed out because there's no information in there. If I right click on it, I can go to add, and I can pick what I want to put in there as the effect parameters. So let's say this one I actually want to do a dimmer and a color. Alright, so I'm going to say confirm. And now you can see it has 5 in there because I have 5 fixtures in that group that I selected. It's automatically going to pull those guys in. So I'm going to go ahead and say shuffle selection order. Now I have my dimmer, and then I have, let's see here, I have 5 colors, I believe. So one really cool thing about MA, so if I come over here to my high and low values, alright, so for my dimmer, I'm going from 0 to 100%. Same thing right now with these colors. What I can do is if I select all of these and I right click, I can actually select a preset to go between. So I can say I want to go between red, and we're going to grab over here and we're going to say warm white. So I want to go between red and warm white on these guys, and 0 and 100%. Alright, so that's all set up there. I can go ahead and close out of here and see it's selective again. If I double click on it, you can see it's going to run on there, and can't really see well because they're really close colors. If I go in there, let's change these here and say instead of warm white, we'll say blue. Alright, so I close out of here, and now you can see it's running between red and blue on there. So go ahead and clear out, and I can do the same thing again. I can throw them onto a fader so I can easily roll them in and out, but now I can also store them into sequences. Alright guys, so diving into sequences here, first thing that we need to do is we're going to turn off all of our executors. So I'm going to say off executor 1 through, and that's going to turn off everything that I have running right now. Alright, so that's the first thing. I'm going to go ahead and then clear out. So I have absolutely nothing in the programmer, nothing's running. It would have been the same as running my shutdown macro that I had built in the last video. So now I have nothing on stage, as you can see. So we're going to talk about building a church service. Alright, I have a different look down here, another view. So I can see, again, still my fixtures on stage, but I can also see my faders up here. Makes it easier than jumping between a bunch of pages. So what I'm going to do is there's 2 different ways that you can do sequences. You can either do one sequence for a service, all the way through. You have your doors, and then you have, your first item in your service, and move on down through like that. The other option is to have a fader for each song or each element of a service. I'll show you how to do one full cue stack, and then I'll also show you kind of an example of how to do individual cues. So the first thing here we can do is, let's say we're going to have our house light, and that's going to be at 100% for doors. And then we're just going to do up lights. Alright, so I'm going to put them at 50%, and we are going to make them violet. Alright, so that's going to be our doors look. So what I can say here is store, and click down here in my sequences. Now I can come up here, we'll go in here, and I can say sequence, and I want sequence 9. I'm going to label this as service demo. Alright, so there we go. We'll leave these the same. Those are pretty useful right there. So now I can say go, and it'll run, and everything's up here. If I clear out, you can see that it all stays there. Now I can come into the individual cue if I select it. So I say select, and I click on any of the buttons. It'll select that cue, so now that's down here. It's also going to be triggered by the main go button. And if I jump up here to my other sequence view, I can now see my individual cues here. So we're going to call this doors. Alright, so now I come back down here. So the first thing that we have right after doors is we're going to come right out with the song. Alright, so we're going to say front light at 100% and warm white. We're going to take our up lights, sorry, not our house light. We're going to grab our up lights and we're going to take them to a warm white, and we're going to leave them at 50%. We're going to take our stage wash, bring them to 100%. We're going to make those a blue. And we're going to take our house light and pull it down to 50% for this first song. So now I've set all that up, and all I do again is store and click on the button, and I'm going to say create a second cue. Alright, so instead of jumping up here, I can also just click right on here, and it'll open it up in my editor window. So I can come in here and I can say first song. Alrighty, so now we can close out of here and jump right back. Now if I clear out, if you watch down here, you can see everything goes back to what it was in the doors, because that's the cue I'm still on. Now if I say go, it's going to slowly, over a 3-second fade, change to that look that I had. So there we are. Now we're going to do a meet and greet. Alright, so we're going to go ahead, we're going to turn off our front lights, we're going to say at 0. Alright, but we're going to leave everything else the same. So we're just going to quickly save that. Put it in there and label that as meet and greet. Now, if I clear out again, remember it's going to change. I say go, and it's going to slowly, over 3 seconds, fade out the front light. Now, as we're coming back, we're going to come into announcements, and we want our up lights on our stage wash to be kind of a cyan. We'll say sea green here. It's our closest one. And we're going to grab our front light. We're going to bring that back to 100%. And house light, we're going to still leave it at 50. Now, if you've noticed, I haven't been individually going through and putting in the levels for, I can't spell. I haven't been putting in the levels for the house lights on every single one. However, they stay the same because GrandMA is a tracking console. That means if I make a change in one cue, it's not going to get rid of that change until I tell it to change. So the house light's going to stay at that 50% that I told it to go to in the first song. It's going to stay there for meet and greet as well as announcements unless I tell it to go otherwise. So now we have a few cues in there. We're going to jump back up here so we can see a little bit bigger view. Now we're going to look at some of the different options that we have. Alright, so let's say we know that meet and greet is always 1 minute exactly. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead, I can say time, and I'm going to say 60. So this is going to give it a 1 minute trigger time. So if I go back to doors, I just use spacebar there, which is the key command for go. Alright, so now if I go into my first song here, it's going to have that 3-second fade. When we get done with our first song, I can go ahead, I can go meet and greet. Now you see it's going to have a countdown here. So it's going to count down for 1 minute, and at the end of that 1 minute, it's automatically going to trigger this, which is going to bring the front light back up, and it's going to change our look that we have in the back. Now if I jump over here again, we can see we're on our meet and greet look. Down here, you can still see the countdowns going. Got about 30 seconds left. So while we're talking there, we're going to look at a few other things as well. You have your fade times, which can individually be adjusted. So maybe for doors, we want to say it's a 5-second fade time. Individual different things, and then there's a whole ton of other stuff that you can do. I can say that I want a delay, so when I actually say go, then it's going to wait X amount of time before it actually changes. Things like that. As you can see, we're getting closer here, so I'm going to go ahead and jump back down here. The other nice thing is cues are automatically updating, so because I'm using these presets, if I were to change the preset, it's going to change it. Now you can see we're just about to trigger here. Alright, so we're counting down, and now if you watch, it's automatically going to go and bring up the front light here and change my look. So those are how you can use things like that. But what I was saying is how these presets are automatically updating. That's really useful, especially with position stuff, maybe if you're a mobile church. And every week, if you have different position for your moving lights, you can easily update those every week, and those updates will automatically be reflected into your cues. It's really helpful like that. So some other aspects that we have in here is we can come down, we can put in a command. So just like we had in our macros, we can put those kinds of command line information right in a cue. It's really useful for Speedmaster, and I'll explain that again, like I said, in a later video. We can loop, so automatically we're going to jump back to a different cue, and all kinds of different information that you can change in there. I'm not going to go terribly in depth, just trying to show some of the different stuff that we have here. And then down here at the end is some of the really cool stuff that we have. We have fade all and delay all, and then you have which will automatically be reflected back. And all of those will automatically pull from your original unless you change it here. So maybe I want my dimmer to fade over 5 seconds, but I want my color over here to fade over 3 seconds in this first cue. So now I can say 3, and so now my color is going to automatically fade over 3 seconds, but my dimmers are going to stay based upon that 5-second fade. So it's really cool just being able to do a lot of really in-depth programming stuff over here. Like I talked about, there's a bunch of different triggers here. I showed you time. There's also follow. So if we jump back around here, that means as soon as I trigger the meet and greet, as soon as it finishes fading in, it's going to automatically trigger the next one. It's not very useful, obviously. In this situation, you want it to go right out of meet and greet into the announcements, but maybe if you had a prep cue where you wanted to pull your lights out and make a change, again, really useful for some of your moving lights, especially if they have go wheels or something like that, where you'll fade it out, you'll change the look. You can have a follow on there, so you fade it out in one cue, the next cue automatically follows and it'll change the look, and then you can fade them back in after that. Like I said, time and go, obviously. Then there's these other ones that are for some of your more in-depth programming. Again, time code is obviously going to be used a lot in some of your bigger stuff that's going on. A lot of your concerts will use it. And there are some bigger churches that will use it as well to make sure that everything just continues to line up. And maybe we'll do another video on that in the future. But here are just some basics of your cue lists that you can go through and set up. Hopefully this has helped you guys out. You should now be able to set up a basic show, make your presets, make your cues that you need. Like I said, you now have the ability to come in here and you can have any volunteer walk in and very simply run it. But also you're able to get a little bit more in depth on the backside, maybe use some effects that we had talked about down here, and program them into cues and cue stacks so that you can do a little bit more in-depth programming, like I said. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments below if you guys have anything else that you guys want to see. Other than that, thanks for watching, guys.